the game all Harry Potter fans were waiting for. Very good reviews everywhere, pre-order records, and a sales success. Hogwarts Legacy is out, I played it, got the Platinum Trophy, and have my thoughts about it. Hi, I'm Lucas Highland, and today we're gonna talk about one of the most hyped games of the past few years, if not the most. I'll talk about a few things I didn't see anyone talking about so far, so stick around and enjoy the trip. And no, I'm not gonna talk about how Voldemort lost his nose. Sorry. To make this video a little more interesting, let's use a system to determine how much each of the characteristics of this game contributes positively or negatively to the overall experience. Just to make it clear, as I said in previous videos, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I watched all the movies, but to me they were just okay, not bad. Which means I know a few things about the wizarding world, but nothing more than that. With that out of the way, let's just get started before you click out of this video. Please don't stay here. Let me entertain you. Just a little bit, please. Hey, are you still there? Thank you. You're the best. Let's get started with what everyone is talking about all the time that I hate, but I need to include in the video: the graphics. The graphics in this game are very good, although they seem way more realistic in the scenarios than in the characters. Overall, the lighting is very realistic, the reflections are gorgeous. The textures are mostly good too, although some of the clothes have very noticeable pixels. And sometimes it's a little distracting, but it's not too bad though. There are some technical limitations like the hair and the skins of the characters that are nothing compared to the most recent games like Horizon Forbidden West, for example. Alright, overall the characters are the lowest points in terms of graphics, and the ambience and the world all around you are the best point. But would this game be as good or as fun if the graphics were worse? Probably yes. I honestly don't see this as so important to the experience as a whole, but I feel it helps to support the visuals, so I'll say that the graphics are good and contribute a little to the overall experience of the game. And now, once I already mentioned it, let's talk about the visuals, shall we? For those who are not used to the difference between graphics and visuals, simplifying it, graphics are the technical aspect of what we see, like the lighting and textures, for example. Visuals is the style, art, and the atmosphere. It's the creative/artistic part of what we see in a video game. Basically, engineers make the graphics and artists make the visuals. And in this game, the artists made a remarkable job. There are many places that will impress you, just like the first time that you put your feet in Hogsmeade. The same happens all over Hogwarts with a cohesive ambience that makes your trips in this world fantastic. There are a few flaws that impacts the visuals of this game negatively. Mainly the facial expressions. In the cutscenes they are a little better, but during all the other character standard dialogues it is very bad. It simply looks very artificial and robotic. Sometimes the facial expressions don't match the vibe of the dialogue at all. The character is super emotional, almost crying or even shouting, and the facial expressions are super neutral. The same happens to their movements. There's lack of expression, making the secondary characters' animation and facial expressions the worst part of the visuals in this game. All the other animations in this game outside of those dialogue scenes are very good, and I have nothing to complain about. So overall, the visuals in this game is one of the characteristics that impacts the most. The positives far exceed the negatives and definitely has a heavy positive contribution to the game, with small problems that honestly we totally forget about because of how great the positives are. But the visuals are only so impactful because of the next thing we are gonna talk about: the world. It feels really alive. The attention to detail is impressive. The NPCs are not just standing and waiting around for you to interact with them. No, most of the NPCs seem to be doing something to their lives while they walk around. Students are carrying piles of books, studying, or group chatting. And the best part is that they structure the whole world to have interesting things happening all the time. There's an excellent video by Luke Stevens that explains how they make this, that I will leave a link in the description below. But the enemies are also not only walking around and waiting to get kicked in the butt. They are also doing their stuff while they are not fighting you. Sometimes they are even fighting each other, which gives this world a natural feel. It is immersive and it gives you the excitement to explore. So yes, the world aspect has a massive positive contribution to the game. This whole world and visuals masterpiece is good, but without something to connect things and give a sense to your progression, it would be a dull and meaningless experience. There is where the story comes to play its part. But I'll have to say, this is everything the story does. It ties things together and keeps the experience flowing. It's nothing innovative or remarkable. Overall, the story is not unpredictable, creative, or impressive. If you're anything like me who likes stories that create that sensation of wow, I wasn't expecting that, you won't have that here, mainly in a main storyline. The secondary storylines, on the other hand, are very good. In my opinion, they are even better than the main storyline. They all have cliché endings too, but there are lots of surprises along the way that make them have more narrative value than the main one. It seems that this story is just there to help us to feel the sense of progression, so I would say that it has very little positive contribution to the overall experience in this game. An open world game is nothing without content, so this is the next topic we are gonna cover. There's a huge amount of things to do all over the map. It is inevitable not to be surprised by the variety of places, quests, collectibles, cosmetics, and other things to get and do. But when it comes to quests, the structure gets a little predictable and repetitive to the end of the game, mainly in the secondary quests. Talk to a secondary quest character, walk to a dungeon, solve a few puzzles, win combats, watch the story cutscenes and dialogues, and done. The storyline dialogues and cutscenes hold these structures' interest and curiosity. The problem is that they repeat some of the puzzles more than they should. And sometimes we already know how to solve the puzzles just because we already solved very similar ones before. This will only happen to you if it happens very far in the game, because although this can happen, they have lots and lots of different puzzles. Sometimes it feels just like that wasn't enough. Another thing that I didn't like at all are the Marlin trials. That we have more than 90 of them, but only 9 variations of puzzles, which means we are basically repeating each of these puzzles 10 times or more, and they are not that interesting after the first and second time you beat them. Also, there could be more distinct variations in enemies. If you watched my Days Gone review video, you would understand what I mean. Even though there are not many different zombie species we can face in the game, somehow they seem to have so many variations to each one of these species that it seems that we never face the same zombie twice. But this doesn't happen here. The amount of different enemies is very limited. Also, the variation in visuals of each of these different kinds of enemies is very minimal, if any. Before we wrap the content part up, I need to mention the exclusive PlayStation version quest. Well, it's not overstating to say that this is one of the best, if not the best quest in the entire game. And I would be crazy mad if I played this game on PC and found out how cool this quest is once I didn't have access to it. Also, the reward for this quest is having your own Hogsmeade shop. And although we cannot customize it like the Room of Requirements, 10% more galleons or gold, whatever you want to call it, for selling items is a very overpowered quality of life advantage. Not to mention that only knowing that we have a store in Hogsmeade is already cool enough by itself. So I honestly don't know how to feel about it once I did play this game on the PS5 and had the experience of this crazy cool quest. So if you didn't play this game yet, or if you played on PC, let me know in the comments below how you feel about it, because whatever I say here will be very biased. That being said, content is a strong point in this game. I consider that its flaws are way less relevant than the qualities too, so I would consider it strongly contributes positively to the game. Which takes me to one of the parts I mentioned in the beginning of this video where I said that I didn't see anyone talking about the gameplay. Well, sure, people talked about the gameplay, but I think I have a few points that I didn't see anyone mentioning so far. The gameplay is good and the systems are smooth, but I did say good, not excellent, because although it's not bad, there are some button layouts that are a little confusing. As I said before, I played in the PS5, so this part will only refer to playing with the controller. There's a huge getting used to process when it comes to choosing the right spells. Sometimes we want to do something and end up doing something completely different. I don't know about you, but if I had the intention to kill someone with an Avada Kedavra, the last thing that I would do is put out a pot of food for my magical beasts, if you know what I mean. And I say this because sometimes we end up doing something else just because it's very difficult to memorize where we stored all the spells in this confusing system they chose. And this getting used process can take a long time. I have more than 60 hours of gameplay. Until the end of this game, I kept misusing spells all the time. I was doing it a little less frequently towards the end of the game, but it's still quite annoying. I really feel they could have found a better solution to having access to that many spells. But mainly it would be very cool if they allowed us to program the button layouts, but no luck for us here too. Now one of the worst problems to me, flying brooms. Oh boy, it was a nightmare. We turn left and right with the left thumbstick, and we go up and down with the right thumbstick. The process of getting used is terrible. We literally feel like we were drunk the first few times that we get on a broom. I couldn't avoid but to keep thinking all the time that there is a standard way to fly in video games. Why didn't they simply use what everyone is used to? Damn it! But soon I realized they wanted it to be as difficult as it is. And they wanted us to get used to something different and feel the progression to give merit to those who master this system. But why do I say that? Because when you fly beasts, the commands are simply those standard ones I just mentioned. It is very easy to fly beasts. Way easier than flying a broom, but it's also slower. So we need to choose between control and speed. But after practicing a little, you will get used to the broom, don't worry. It never gets as easy as flying a beast, and you will still mess up from time to time, but it will get better. Trust me. And this made me realize something, and here comes the part that I said that I didn't see anyone mentioning so far. I don't think Avalanche Software excluded Quidditch from Hogwarts Legacy for the reasons most people are saying they did. I mean, more or less. People are saying that it's because they didn't have time to include it inside of the game, and I kinda agree with that. The part that I still didn't hear anyone mentioning is that I think they didn't have time to include Quidditch in the game because of how hard it is to fly with your broom. Quidditch is a very fast-pacing and precision-based game, and I honestly cannot imagine me doing anything else at the same time as I fly a broom. It would be frustratingly difficult, mainly in the beginning of the game. So either they would need to change the controls of the broom flying during the Quidditch matches, which would create a huge continuity problem, or Quidditch would be simply too hard to play. So yes, I do believe they didn't add it to Hogwarts Legacy because of time, but I'm not talking about time to code the game rules, the game interface, or anything like this. It was because they didn't have time to figure out how to solve this problem, how to make it playable and enjoyable inside of Hogwarts Legacy. And honestly, I'm happy they made this decision instead of adding a broken feature inside of the game just to please fans. Although we have some annoying problems in the gameplay to the end of the game, they are not that frequent, and we more often than not feel in control over what we are doing. So the gameplay also contributes positively to the game. It doesn't add too much because they didn't create something new, but it fits well and helps to make it pleasing to navigate, explore and fight. The gameplay systems seem to integrate this world very well. Now let's talk about all the different systems inside of this game. Broom races, Summoner's Court, that minigame, brewing potions,
growing plants, taming beasts, taking care of them, crafting items, upgrading equipment, creating your own workshop, decorating it as you wish, the variants and constructions inside of them, breeding beasts,
and much, much more. It's easy to get lost in all of the systems inside of this game. So as I predicted in my What to Expect video, this game will be massive in terms of things to know. The systems sometimes complement each other, which makes them seem to have a purpose, and they are not just cosmetics to make fans happy. You can catch beasts, okay. But why? To gather the resources, okay. But why? To improve your items, okay. But why? to improve your power and make the experience of beating the story even better and also more memorable, because in this case it feels better to beat the game feeling you are an overpowered wizard. But the systems are not very deep, so if you are one of those people who enjoy deep, extensive and complex systems in games where you always need an encyclopedia to understand, this may not please you. But I felt the systems were not that shallow either. It seems they aim to the more intermediate/casual gamer who don't want to invest 20 hours to understand each one of the systems, but they want all the benefits from them. It makes it accessible to everyone who wants to use and abuse of everything the game has to give. The problem is that in the end the character ends up way too powerful if you invest a moderate time in all of the systems. In the end, it kind of feel you could beat Dumbledore, Merlin and Voldemort all together in a 3v1, even though it's your first year as a wizard. Okay, this may be an exaggeration, but this level 40 character would for sure be at the top 10 of most powerful wizards ever. These systems also contribute very well to how every point inside of the game connect, and together create an immersive and believable world. I know all of these systems already existed before the game because of the movies and books, but we couldn't ask for a better adaptation of these systems inside of the gaming world. Now, moving to the more technical part before moving to the last considerations, let's talk about the sound and the performance. Starting by the sound, that honestly is very good. The sound effects are very distinguishable and help the gameplay. The voice acting is mostly good. All the characters have much personality in the voice acting apart from the main character, who, as I mentioned in my first impressions video, is as generic as it could be. There is a weird problem with the sound quality in their voice that sometimes seems the voice is coming out of a tube.
What's so special about them?
The script lines of the main character are also very shallow and too short. Often, other characters talk for almost 30 or 40 seconds and you only say around 5 to 6 words.
You can cast spells without a wand.
Oh, yes. I find one is magic to be much more instinctive. Not to mention I can be able to device what I want. I must admit, however, that I'm going quite fond of using wands. It seems very dramatic.
It's nice to learn about another wizarding school.
Thank you for asking. I do miss what I do, but I'm glad to be here at Hogwarts. I think Professor Vernon wants to talk to you. Better not keep him waiting. Until next time.
It leaves us with the sensation that we are being told the story, not that we are a part of it, although our actions and mentions other characters make about us show us otherwise. The music is very good and abuse of nostalgic power. Here is where most games can simply lose all their shine, because a game can get everything right. If the performance is bad, everything else is directly negatively affected. But fortunately to us, this is not a problem for Hogwarts Legacy. For sure, there are a few hiccups in terms of frame rates and small visual bugs, and also a few teleporting characters, but in more than 60 hours of gameplay, all that happened to me in terms of performance were around 4 or 5 noticeable frame drops, a troll that simply teleported above my head during a fight, another time when I was in a conversation with a professor and suddenly one of the students who was walking nearby did the same as the troll, but in the professor's head instead. Also, there was a time that after completing a mission, I wasn't able to open the game menu, the map, the spell selection menu to swim, so I had to restart the game and everything started to working normally again. Apart from that, there was just one bug that kept happening throughout almost the entire game and distracted me a little bit. Honestly, it was really annoying. It was whenever I was in a dialogue cutscene, whenever the game shifted between the different camera angles, the first frame after every camera change, there was this weird glitch. It seemed like a loading glitch, I don't know. In general, the performance wasn't a very noticeable problem and it only impacted a little negatively the game, but nothing even remotely comparable to what happened in Cyberpunk 2077 or Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We're almost hitting the end of this video and it took me 3 days just to write this script, so I would really appreciate if you took 1 second of your time to subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Thank you so much, and now let's keep going to the final considerations. There were 2 good things that I didn't know where to put in the review, so I left it to the final considerations. First one, I felt Avalanche Software was very responsible in their decisions about the game. First of all, not adding Quidditch if they weren't able to make it well was a wise decision. Also, many people bought consoles on purpose to play this game, and it seemed like the developers were aware about these people and made sure they not only presented the game to people who were used to how video games work, but also for the people who played very little games or not at all before. And all of this without making the explanation too boring for the people who are used to play video games. The second good aspect is how they distributed the new features inside of the game. Instead of compressing everything in the beginning, making us have to digest a huge amount of information and tutorials, they spread it all along many hours of gameplay. This ended up making the game even more interesting in the end. I never once lost my interest for the game or wanted to stop playing. Alright, after an extensive review of different points, this is my conclusion about Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is an excellent game. It is fun from the beginning to the end. A game that were able to represent in the best way possible this fantastic world. I totally recommend this game even if you don't care at all about the Harry Potter franchise. And considering the movies, Hogwarts Legacy is the best experience in the wizarding world so far. I cannot talk about the books because I didn't read them, but don't take my word for that. If you search for the reviews in Metacritic for Hogwarts Legacy and then you do the same for all the Harry Potter movies and Fantastic Beasts movies, you will see that the reviews and the score for Hogwarts Legacy is higher than any of the movies. This includes the professional reviews and the user reviews. So yeah, argue with that now. More than that, all the systems, storylines, characters and environments makes this game a new benchmark, raising the standards to how AAA worlds and games should be created. That clearly shows whoever was involved in this project was excited and working with all they have physically and emotionally. And the cherry on top, a game made by a developer that had no previous portfolio in this genre. Hogwarts Legacy is an excellent game, with a few flaws that cannot be compared to all of its qualities, and it's definitely entering my list of don't die before playing. I'm Lucas Highland, thank you so much for staying this long with me. I hope you enjoyed this video at least 1/10 as much as I like to make it for you. If you want even more about this game coming from me, you can watch this other video, where I shared a few things I didn't mention in this video. Thank you again and see you in the next video.